No more backdoor PR, conservatives unveil tough new asylum rules. Welcome back to Canada Chronicles. Today we're diving into one of the most urgent immigration battles happening in Canada right now. The Conservative Party of Canada has unveiled major proposals aimed at shutting down what they describe as backdoor pathways to permanent residency through the asylum system. With asylum claims at historic highs and billions in public services under pressure, these proposals could reshape who ultimately gets to stay in Canada long term, if they are implemented. In this video, we will break down what the conservative proposals include, why supporters argue they are needed, and why critics warn they could put vulnerable people at risk. And near the end, we will go deeper into a shift that is quietly reshaping Canada's immigration future. The hidden shift, why Canada may no longer offer PR to most temporary residents. If you're on a temporary visa, student, worker, or visitor, make sure to stay until the end. Please subscribe with notifications turned on. These updates could directly affect your status in Canada. Let's get started. Canada's refugee system is under intense strain. Over the last 3 years, Canada has received close to 500,000 asylum claims, a dramatic increase over historical averages. Many applicants first entered as students, workers, or visitors and only applied for asylum when their temporary status was close to ending. Because the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada is facing major backlogs, decisions can take years. There are now more than 300,000 cases waiting to be heard. The Conservative Party argues that this undermines trust in the system and creates an unfair situation where some use last-minute asylum claims to delay removal. Bill C-12, a government bill still under committee review, already proposes changes to address abuse and improve enforcement. However, the Conservatives have introduced further amendments that go much further. None of these are law today, but if the Conservatives form government, they say these proposals will guide their immigration agenda. One key proposal would restrict access to non-essential public benefits for failed asylum claimants while their appeals continue. Emergency medical care would remain, but other supports could be limited. Conservatives say this would reduce incentives to prolong stays after refusal. Another proposed rule would block asylum claims from people arriving through safe countries such as the United States or European Union members. Their position is that asylum should only be claimed in the first safe country where protection is available. A third proposed rule would mark claims as abandoned if claimants travel back to their home country during processing. The conservative argument is simple. If someone can safely return home, their refugee story may not be credible. There are also proposals to automatically reject claims if it is proven that applicants knowingly provide false core information. Conservatives argue that fraudulent claims are slowing down decisions for real refugees. Timing would also change. The Conservative Party wants asylum claims submitted as early as possible after arrival. Those who wait until removal orders are issued would need strong, verifiable evidence proving that new risks emerge after they entered Canada. One of the most debated proposals involves international education. Some private colleges aggressively recruited foreign students by suggesting that permanent residency was practically guaranteed, even when jobs or qualifications did not align with immigration pathways. When plans collapsed, some turned to asylum. Conservatives say schools should share financial consequences when their recruitment practices contribute to unsupported refugee claims. Another proposal would require detailed evidence early in the process to avoid later changes guided by consultants who may exaggerate claims. Conservatives believe this could reduce fraud and reduce processing times. The proposals also include public safety reforms. The Conservative Party says non-citizens convicted of serious violent crimes, such as sexual assault or armed robbery, should be removed more quickly with fewer appeals. Supporters argue that immigration is a privilege and that serious offenders should not remain in Canada. Advocates who support these changes argue they will restore fairness and prevent misuse of a system designed for people fleeing real danger. But refugee rights groups strongly disagree. They warn that strict deadlines and reduced supports could result in genuine refugees being deported unfairly. The Canadian Civil Liberties Association and several refugee law organizations caution that some proposals may conflict with charter protections in Canada's international commitments. They also warn that rapid decisions without proper hearings could face court challenges. It is also important to note that the current government of Canada has not adopted these conservative proposals. Federal officials emphasize that any reforms must protect both fairness and constitutional rights. Even if these proposals pass later, legal disputes could delay implementation. If the proposals eventually move forward, potential impacts include faster removals for refused claimants, higher accountability for colleges enrolling students with poor job prospects, and fewer appeal options for serious offenders. The Conservative Party insists they are not against refugees. They say their intent is to direct resources to those fleeing real persecution while preventing last-minute attempts to remain through unplanned legal strategies. One major factor driving this debate is the record number of temporary residents, now above 3 million. Many are trying to transition to permanent residency through economic programs. But as work permit rules tighten, some turn to asylum as a fallback. The conservatives argue this was never the purpose of temporary immigration programs. Analysts believe these proposals could become a defining election issue. Voters broadly support immigration, but want a system that feels controlled and fair. Thanks for staying with us this far. We appreciate your time and hope you're finding this information valuable. The hidden shift. Why Canada may no longer offer PR to most temporary residents. Beneath the asylum reform debate lies a bigger change already underway. Canada is shifting away from a model where temporary residents easily transition to permanent residency. For years, international students and temporary workers could build Canadian experience first, then apply for PR later. But recent government planning signals far fewer PR spots reserved for temporary residents. Instead, the immigration focus is moving toward candidates who arrive with clear job skills, targeted by employers and provincial governments. Supporters say this prevents students from taking on debt based on false expectations and ensures newcomers succeed economically. This means planning must begin before arrival, not when a visa expiry notice arrives in the mailbox. Canada will remain committed to resettling legitimate refugees fleeing war and persecution. But opportunities for temporary residents to pivot late in their stay are becoming more limited. Housing pressure, work permit reforms, and tuition increases have pushed thousands of international students into uncertainty. Meanwhile, temporary workers sometimes face exploitation, with some losing jobs they were promised. Advocates argue that enforcement against dishonest employers is also necessary to prevent asylum misuse. Irregular border crossings surged in past years due to interpretations of the Safe Third Country Agreement, adding more cases to the backlog. Processing struggles remain severe. At the same time, Canada's economy relies on immigrants in healthcare, construction, agriculture, technology, hospitality, and transportation. Business leaders warn that if enforcement increases without clearer permanent pathways, labor shortages could worsen. Canadian courts have historically defended refugee rights, meaning reforms must guarantee fair hearings to survive constitutional challenges. That makes timelines uncertain. But one message is already clear. The immigration landscape is changing fast. Students must choose programs with strong job outcomes. Workers must follow every compliance rule. Those seeking asylum must gather and present evidence immediately. What happens next depends on Parliament, or possibly the next election. If Conservatives win government, many of these proposals may advance. If not, the direction could shift again. Canada remains a nation built by newcomers, but the era of easy transitions and late-stage pivots is fading. Whether you are studying, working, or planning your move, the new reality is simple. Prepare early, understand the rules, and make every step count. The people who adapt quickly will be the ones who still succeed. Thank you for watching Canada Chronicles and staying informed. If this update helped you, please like, share, and subscribe. More major immigration changes are expected soon. See you in the next video.